It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What?
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
And it is time for racing once again here at Road America. The Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama sees the Caymans head out onto the track for race 2. I'm Joe Peak, joined by Ryan Marine. And this certainly saw plenty of action yesterday, Ryan. The Caymans almost usually do.
They certainly do. It's a great class, great car, great platform to race from. And then this venue here at Road America, one of the very best. High commitment, high speed, a 4-mile tour through the Wisconsin countryside. And we've got 35 minutes plus 1 lap of racing to go in the final Cayman sprint race of the weekend.
Well, with them already out on track, why don't we head through our starting grid? We won't be going through the starting grid, at least for now. But the drivers getting themselves warmed up as the track continues to do so with the sun coming out higher in the sky. The most sun I think we've seen all weekend. We got a little bit yesterday, but otherwise it's been relatively cloudy. So we'll see whether or not that change does affect the drivers. You were saying as we had the qualifying for the endurance series a little bit earlier that some of the teams were doing a few tweaks.
Yeah, got to adjust to the raising track temperatures with the sun coming out and this asphalt soaking up the sunlight. A little bit different than in the overcast days we've had in the build-up to the races here, so teams will have to adjust setup accordingly as we get ready to go here on the pace lap. Ian Porter on the pole position, Joe, next to Chloe Chambers. Those two had a big fight in the top 4 yesterday. We expect more of the same today.
Yeah, Lonnie Unser's going to be starting from third. 1 position down from yesterday with Carolyn Conda in P4, one of the podium sitters that we saw at the finish. Elaine Scalzo, our winner yesterday, starting from 5th, as William Pelichewski will start from P6. Then you've got row 4, Michael Clark, our points leader, in 7th. Roland Crines will begin from P8. That brings us to row 5, where Tom Kopczynski will be 9th, and Jason Goland rounds out our top 10.
To the 6th row of the grid, Patrick Dempsey back in the series, second weekend of the year for him, alongside Chris Hutter, who had a strong run yesterday. To the 7th row now, and the 13th starting position, Dan Seville for Kelly Moss will start next to Daniel Ammon in the Vintage Racing Company entry. That's positions 13 and 14. 15 and 16 belong to Jim Johnson from Goldcrest Motorsports, and Joe Rizzo from BGB will start in the 16th position today. To the 9th row of the grid now, and Woody Witchard from RCX Motorsports. He'll have Paige Morales for the Rafa Racing Team by JDX Squad alongside Rob Trollinger in row 10, next to Thomas Kerr from Goldcrest and TPC, respectively.
Takes us to the last couple rows with Joseph Petkus in 21st and Bill Finnick starting in the 22nd position. Then you've got Thomas Bigany on the outside of Rafa Martinez, who actually is going to be joining us here in a second, as he will not be starting this race. So looks like that gives us just about the right timing to get going here, because the pace car is now heading into the pit lane. You've got the Pro-Ams in the white boxes, the Masters in the yellow boxes on your timing tower. That's the two classes competing as they wait for the call from the flag stand to release them down into turn 1, and there it is. Green flag is out, and Porter gets a pretty good jump. Chloe Chambers going to try and see if she can cover off to keep from having Conda move up the inside. In fact, no, it's going to be Lonnie Unser who sneaks up into there into second position, trying to take that one away to get another P2. It's going to be a hard battle down into turn 3.
Porter with a great getaway from pole position. He's got practice doing that. That's his 6th consecutive pole position. The fight, though, is for second behind him as Porter scampers away. Lonnie Unser holds down that second spot. Chambers giving chase, and it's Carolyn Conda also with an eye on a podium position. Further back, side-by-side battle in the run down to turn 5.
I think Pilichowski may have taken the lead of the Masters. Indeed, he has. He's in that orange-colored number 62 into the braking zone, heavy on the binders and trying to cut back underneath for Chloe Chambers. In fact, I think she's got a nose in coming into turn 6. They're going to continue on in that side-by-side battle. She retakes P2.
And Conda now smelling blood in the water, pops to the inside, has to back out of it. That's a high-speed corner there. Tough place to make a pass, and now that leaves her a bit vulnerable to the charging Bill Pilichowski. He settles back in line, and they run 1, 2, 3, 4. Porter, Chambers, Unser, and Conda.
A lot of swapping around here on this first lap for those top spots, but it has definitely helped Ian Porter. Look at the gap on your screen. Many, many car lengths between himself and the second place Chloe Chambers now at this stage. They'll come down into the kink for the first time. Saw a little bit of a poke to the inside by Pilichowski. He wants a little bit more of a buffer, and that's going to cause a car to go all the way off in the kink and somehow manages to get back on. I think that was Conda with a lucky escape.
Wow, that was scary stuff. You don't often get away with that on the outside of the kink, but Carolyn was able to collect it, lost some track position, but has the car under her still. We do have some contact possibly further back in the pack. Did look like some smoke coming off one of the cars as the leaders flash through. This is a little bit further back at Scalzo now, who might have found a way back around Pilichowski. Pilichowski going defensive. He's got Conda trying to come back through the field right behind him.
Holy cow, what an end to that lap. Frantic stuff. Chambers going to hold on to second with Unser in third. I don't think Conda appreciated that move. Scalzo has snuck by because of all the chaos and is back into the lead of the Masters category. Crines moves himself into P2.
Yeah, Roland Crines followed him through. Great move there as Conda now finds herself in a battle with Michael Clark. Those two side by side into turn number 1. Here's the run down to turn number 3. It's still Porter out in front by nearly 2 seconds.
So Pilichowski might be ruining a little bit of some of that hard competition, trying to get that spot down into the kink. In fact, it looks like that is him now slipping backwards behind Michael Clark along the Moraine sweep. I wonder if that little bit of smoke was the two cars actually rubbing tires up into Bill Mitchell Bend.
Conda trying to settle back into her rhythm. That was a frantic opening lap for her. She's got her target out in front through the windscreen at the moment as Pilichowski goes a little bit wide. That is Conda trying to find a way by, but again, can't make that pass through that high-speed right-handed corner. Now the run through Hurry Downs. This is a place you could make a pass, but she's not close enough to make a move this time.
And I think Dempsey may have made a couple spots, too, because he's now suddenly in the mix. So great run by the number 98 to capitalize on all that was happening in front of him. Let's hope this one's a little bit calmer as they'll hit the kink again. And we got a lot of dust being kicked up out of the carousel.
Yeah, someone dropped the left sides there, exiting the carousel, but it looks like no harm, no foul. You're right, though, about Patrick Dempsey. What a great drive he had yesterday until it all went awry late in the going. Having another strong drive here up through the field, inside the top 10 overall, and putting some pressure on the points leader, Michael Clark, in that Masters class battle.
The top 3 have definitely separated far more than what we had seen before. So that is calming down, but now all the craziness is trickling farther back as we see someone going quite wide off of Canada Corner. Thankfully, looks like that did not result in any sort of major incident. So we complete lap 2 with Porter still leading. Chambers going to be second place with Unser in third. Meanwhile, there goes Scalzo across the line to lead, but not by much over Roland Crines, who's looking to be on the attack.
Yeah, Matt Rowland has a podium already this year at Watkins Glen. That was a finish of third in the second race there, and he's looking to do at least one spot better, if not more. He's got designs on taking the class lead here on this third lap of the race. He's right there in the tire tracks of Alan Scalzo, the winner yesterday, but Roland Kreins, the Austrian driver, looking very strong here in the early going.
He's going to get a decent run off of turn 3. Not sure if this is enough coming down into 5. Looks a little too far away to try and do something at this stage. Still appears to be something of a defense from the 26 under braking into the corner just to cover off any possibility.
While we keep an eye on this battle, Joe, you alluded to it earlier. We do have a special guest with us in the booth. It's Rafa Martinez, who we would love to be talking about on the racetrack right now. And we will later today in the endurance race. We can talk more about that in a moment. But let's take the helmet off and the team owner hat. Let's put that on here because you had a very interesting opening lap to watch with two of your drivers, Ian Porter out in front, but then Carolyn Conda right there in the midst of the battle.
Yeah, it seemed like she had a little battle here going into the kink and went off. It was great to see her have a nice save. That's exactly where I went off on Thursday during testing. That's why I'm sitting here. So, I see that she hesitated a couple of times. Maybe the car, maybe it didn't feel as secure until a couple of corners later. So hopefully she's able to make a move back. But yeah, it was a pretty intense battle there at the start.
Is it tougher to be a team owner out of the car watching on the screen than when you're in the car yourself and you don't necessarily know what's going on?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a different type of energy, I think. Obviously I'm excited watching it and nervous for them at the same time. But when you're in a car, you're just in a different mode when you're driving and focusing what you're doing, not really paying attention to what's happening, too far ahead or too far behind you. So yeah, it's still pretty exciting, and I enjoy watching races. So I, even after I go home, I watch our live streams, particularly even if I'm not part of the show because I'm perhaps maybe a little bit far back. It's nice to see the battles that my teammates and the rest of the group went through.
We've heard the team often talk about one of the things you've been working on with Carolyn is to get her to be more aggressive out there. The way she fought back after she got pushed off, was that a bit of her starting to really get up there and show herself?
Yeah, anytime that we're about to start the race, I always try to fire her up and get her aggressiveness in her belly because she's an incredible driver, great talent, super young, learning to race and drive. But a lot of times, there's been times where she could have been just a little bit more aggressive to make a move, whether it was on Ian, whether it was on Schaefer, on some of the races. And so we've been trying to focus around her aggressiveness, and you can see how she rebounded, and you can tell that she had that that fire in her belly trying to make that move back.
You helped to give her this opportunity to come stateside and race over here for the first time. She won the shootout that you had last fall. So with that in mind, how proud are you to see her continued development and then to get to victory lane at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's awesome. I mean, obviously the shootout was an incredible competition. We had a good time doing it, but also it provided an opportunity to give us a driver that can represent us and that we can develop. And it's been pretty awesome to see her development from just her speaking the language in general. When she showed up November of last year, she barely knew how to speak English, and so now she's, I wouldn't call it fluent, but she speaks it really, really well, and starting to get some of the slang and things like that. It's just actually pretty funny. She was saying yesterday, I think we were talking about it, she was saying some corner felt sketchy, right? And I was like, yeah, that's a word. So she's like picking up words like that. So it's actually pretty awesome just to see her personality come to life. Particularly when you don't speak a language, you can't really display your personality. You're timid, you're choppy, you don't really know exactly what to say in certain circumstances. But now that she's developed, we can certainly see her personality coming out, and it's been pretty awesome.
Well, it's certainly been fun at the start, but now that it is calmed down somewhat, I mean, what are you expecting out of what we've got going on here? Obviously, Carolyn has been shuffled back a little bit. She's got a few of the Masters drivers. Do you think she can make it back up to the podium?
I think so. I think particularly if we end up with a yellow or any sort of, I think that she has the speed to get up there. And obviously she's missed the peak part of the tires at this point. So we'll see how much she can actually close on the top three there, because Lania and Chambers are, doing some pretty quick laps here. So I think that she can certainly move up from the, from where she is, through the Masters class. But obviously those guys have shown quite a better pace compared to them as well throughout the weekend.
We were talking about how you not only operate over here in the States, but you're doing racing and working over in Europe as well. How do you juggle that with all that goes on I mean, also doing a lot of behind the scenes with the team too.
Yeah, it's been obviously it's a challenging part of the schedule. Is we've had back-to-back weekends where we had a race at Spa and flew into the States, changed clothes, and flew to Watkins Glen, right? And so I have a business. I trade natural gas. I have a book of business that I manage and a whole desk that I actually do for a living. That's what I call what I do for a living is the one that I get a W-2 from, right? Everything else is businesses that I've started or operated and invested in. And so it's been a pretty hectic schedule. A lot of it has just been my ability to juggle things on the trading side and the volatility that the market brings, be able to process information quickly and make decisions quickly sort of is one of the reasons why I've been successful at trading. And I think that in managing life events and activities is one of the things that I've been able to, fortunately, being able to balance quite a bit of things going around, obviously with the family commitments and the business commitments that we have.
And having a big support system, that's a big part of it too, right? Partnering up this year with JDX, Jeremy Dale, and that great operation. How much of a jump start does that give you as you start to build your program?
Exactly. That's one of the big things that we wanted to do coming into the motorsport space was, take advantage of the infrastructure that exists, the experience, the many years of racing and running cars that someone like JDX and Jeremy have. And so for us, it's a huge jumpstart because we don't have to go build the infrastructure that already exists. We come in and support it in a way, and I think that it's just been a great partnership and great system that we've put together with them.
I'm also curious, how have you been tying in sim racing? Because I've actually even recently called races where I've seen Rafa on the sides of some sim cars too.
Yeah. So a big part of what we're building is the community of real life racers, but obviously there's a massive market in the sim racing world, and so that's part of the way that we ended up finding Ian and the way that we will intend to find other drivers. And so we want to make sure that we support the motorsport space across the board and that we exist in online racing as well. And so we have partnership with iRacing. We're doing stuff with some of the sim, like SimCraft. We're using their equipment and work pretty closely with them to get as dialed in of a sim as we can. And we have a couple of pros that race with us or for us that are representing us at the moment. So we want to make sure that we also support that online community and that we can bring an element of value to that space as well.
Rafa Martinez, our guest, joining us here. What would you say is the appropriate title for you? I know you head up the Rafa Racing Club. What would you say would be the way to introduce you?
Yeah, I would say probably the founder of the business. The Rafa Racing Club is a private clubhouse style membership, that we wanted to come in and be able to create community around the motorsport space. People that want to do track days, that want to come to the track, that want to have access to, say, VIP events or more private events, as well as people that are racing and that want to have a community where they can develop. And so part of the club is a performance center where we're going to have physios, training, F1 type of caliber training facility that has all of the electronics, all of the equipment, the sims and stuff like that you can actually use to train and develop and become a better driver, both from if you're a professional or if you're just an amateur, someone getting into it. So that's part of what the club is, and that's kind of where I'm the founder of. And obviously with that, we've created this mission that we want to create some opportunities for some drivers, particularly women in the sport that have struggled in the past, and living out our mission and our passion for the sport is one of the big things that we're pushing for. Oh, there's someone got turned around.
I think that was
Roland.
Clark.
Oh, is it Clark?
It was the 19. No, you're
Roland
right.
Grimes.
It is Roland.
That was out of the lead in the Masters class. Wonder what led up to that. That was down in Canada Corner. And Roland had done a great job racing his way to the front. Michael Clark, I would assume, would inherit the lead then, and that would put him in a position to just build on his points lead. We'll keep an eye on that. Lachowski comes through actually now with the lead. So Clark, I'm going to speculate, might have been involved. You see the team running out to the pit wall to get a close look at Michael's car. And he's had an interesting weekend, Joe, because it didn't all start off great. They had to scramble a little bit after an incident in testing.
Exactly, and they eventually found a car and had to swap over transmitters and everything, and he's out there once again trying to fight for a championship. That's why it was so important for him. And just checked, and that's a bit of a shame because Roland has not had a win yet in the Masters here. So he's going to try and fight back from that one, but you can see on our timing and scoring that it looks like he's off the podium currently. So we'll see what becomes of that. Pelachowski now leading ahead of Clark. Also, I wanted to point out one thing that I noticed, because Chambers had closed in pretty significantly, it seemed, on Ian Porter. In fact, Chloe holds the fastest lap of the race by about 0.4 of a second.
She came into this weekend undefeated in the series. She won the 2 races that she participated in earlier in the year. I believe that was at Barber. Finished off the podium, though, yesterday. It was not her best day. Of course, she's doing F1 Academy this year as well. Great story. Great to have Chloe back in the championship. But she's keeping Ian Porter honest. And, Rafa, you look after Ian, of course. He's part of the Rafa family. But this is part of his development as he gets into this new line of competition coming out of esports and Call of Duty. These are new challenges for him, and similarly, when we have the endurance race this afternoon, he's going to do all 60 minutes by himself, and that's another big part of his development. Yeah,
it's going to be one of the big things that we were working on with him, is developing his endurance training. When we first met him last year, he was a professional sim racer, never raced in a car, had done some track days on road cars, never been on slicks, and so we kind of put him in a car and started the development there. And the first race that he ever did was obviously Sebring, and he did extremely well, but he hasn't faced a lot of adversity in real life situations. He hasn't, had someone on his tail for a full race. He's just been able to run away. So it's actually nice to see him with Chambers, putting pressure on him. It's good to see him just from a battle. Obviously, you always want to win, but it's also great to see that he just doesn't run away, that he's actually learning some racecraft and be able to defend a little bit. He hasn't had to do that all year.
You talked earlier about wanting to bring drivers in from uncharacteristic backgrounds, and I would say a Call of Duty professional into motorsports would be that, but you've also talked about the diversity initiative, and that's not just here in the States, but also in your GT4 European Series, presented by the Rafa Racing Club, of course, where you've got Jim Hepworth driving over there. So this is really a multifaceted approach to trying to help drivers get involved from different backgrounds.
It is, and it's kind of laying the groundwork of where we envision the business going. We want to go across the U.S. with the clubhouses. We want to go across Europe and across the world. So that's the plan that we have, kind of like a 5-year development plan. And so being able to go in other places as well to send a message and kind of build our relationships and establish ourselves there has been pretty important. So being able to find someone like Jen from the UK, she grew up in a farm in the southwestern part of the UK and grew up karting extremely quick, but never had the funding or the opportunity to go into racing, and came across her. She's an incredible character, huge personality, great person, super driven, and obviously a great driver. And so to be able to bring her into the fold and tell her story through the content that we're creating is one of the special things that we get to do.
You talked about the clubhouses, and do I have this right? The first headquarters building there in Houston's about complete?
It's pretty much complete. We got our certificate. I think that we got a couple of the things that we want to do prior to officially launching and doing a grand opening, but from a construction standpoint, it's pretty much complete. Yep, finally. It's been a couple of years coming.
Are there other target cities where you'd like to have a presence?
Yeah. So certainly, we have a second clubhouse that's under construction in Austin. So we have a development outside of Circle of the Americas called Garages of the Americas, and so I'm a partner there with Team Myers there. So we own that. It's 17 acres. We're building 160, couple hundred private garages, and the clubhouse there is going to be a Rafa clubhouse. And then we have other targets across the U.S., West Coast, like L.A., going to Florida, going to New York, Chicago, as well as the big cities in Europe where you have the passion for motorsports as well as the ability to access different tracks. Part of the goal for us is to not have the clubhouses be at the track themselves, but be in centers of population where people can actually access them and enjoy the facilities, and then be able to organize events from there and go to the track and things like that. So we have London and Paris and Barcelona, Madrid, south of France, all those different big locations where we feel that motorsports it's a big part of it, and people have the cars to actually enjoy the sport.
Really exciting stuff and a cool initiative. Joey got a great battle though brewing right here. Porter drops the right rear. That was an interesting moment for him, and that allows Chloe Chambers to draw that much closer.
The last 2 laps, she has cut off 0.6 of a second to Ian Porter. She's been steadily faster and still holds the fastest lap of the race. Behind them, Lonnie Unser's trying to respond herself. Hasn't gained as much, but she actually hit a personal best, but you can see the difference that she's lost to the pair of them. It does appear to be a bit of a 2-horse race, and I have a feeling that Chloe wants to strike back on this one because she liked winning those first 2 races.
Yeah, no doubt about it. She had a big smile on her face there in Alabama at Barber earlier in the season. big year for her racing in F1 Academy. We talked about it some yesterday, but to go out and win against some pretty big names on a big stage too, as the support build to Formula One, that's absolutely huge for her. And she finds herself third in points, actually in a tie for second, but would drop to third on countback, still with plenty of races yet to go. But doing a great job there, and I think that just speaks volumes to the talent that's on display here in Porsche Sprint Challenge.
No doubt. And I'm very curious because Rafa had mentioned something that we hadn't really focused on, that we haven't seen Ian come under pressure like this. We've seen him fight through the field, but not be in the lead and have to really watch his mirrors in this fashion. Let's see what the lap times look like as they come across the line this time. And he's a little bit faster, but Chloe's still another 0.2 quicker that time. She is steadily eating away at this.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch, that's for sure. Right there in the tire tracks with plenty of time to go, as long as it stays green. 14 minutes plus 1 lap left in this 35-minute sprint. 2 other battles, though, to keep an eye on. Carolyn Conda has recovered nicely, starting to come back through the field, but the fight for the final podium position in Masters might be one to watch. And here is Roland Krines grabbing that 3rd spot away from Patrick Dempsey, right on cue. Roland, thank you for that. Perfect timing.
And I don't think that Patrick's is out of the woods, because Jim Johnson was getting very close. In fact, you can see the 2 of them, those white cars, coming through turn 3 right now. And I think this is going to be Jim with a good run down the Moraine Sweep. The question is, does he want to try and dive it up the inside? 2 superstars in other realms racing here, trying to be superstars on the track. And I think that's a defensive little cover from Patrick Dempsey, just trying to sway as the car that just overtook him makes a mistake ahead. Roland Krines might have to give up that podium position. Patrick gets his nose underneath, but can't keep it there.
Both of these are drivers with big careers in the entertainment business. We know what Patrick Dempsey has done, but Jim Johnson, very active as a music producer, has worked with some massive names like Lil Wayne and Jelly Roll. And he also has a long history of racing, but both of these guys, it's been a little while since they've been behind the wheel on a regular basis in competition. And right now putting on a show for us, also creeping into the conversation, is Daniel Ammon, looking very racy too. That's the 3-car battle you see exiting the carousel.
So as they head towards the kink now, seems like action has really picked up there at the lower end of the podium for the Masters category. Could be another good run from Johnson. If he can maybe get his nose in down into Canada corner, we'll see if he's brave enough. And no, it looks like he doesn't think he has the speed. So they're going to stay in order with Krines sitting 3rd, Dempsey 4th, Johnson 5th.
Good fight, though. Fun to watch. These are some of your sparring partners, Rafa. You've been on track with these guys. You know the quality of driver, but also the respect shown in this series.
Yeah, it's been incredible battling with those guys and getting to know them, and shaking hands before, wishing each other luck, shaking hands afterward, and saying that was a great battle. So it's been great to see the respect and the I would call it the proper racing I would say behavior that we're not winning money here, we're not trying to become an F1 driver or anything like that. So we definitely want to have some hard battles, but also have respect for each other and know that we all, at the end of the day, want to be able to go home with as good of a car as we can, back to our families and stuff, and not take too many unnecessary risks. So it's been pretty good to mix it up with those guys and working on catching them throughout the year.
That was Krines, I think, that may have spun off. No, that was Hutter. That's Chris Hutter, who was sitting in 5th in class, and seems to have lost it of his own volition. No car near him as the rear of it swapped places with the front, and has not been able to get the car moving since he's gone off track. In the meantime, Krines is now unfortunately lost the 3rd position in his class, and it seems that Jim Johnson is having to deal with a different rival.
Yeah, it's Dan Sibyl now, so I think I mistakenly said Dan Ammon earlier, but it was actually Sibyl that had crept into that conversation. So Krines has dropped from 3rd to 4th and might be dropping another spot, with Sibyl looking awfully aggressive here at the moment. Still, we have that car off to the side. That's Hutter, who had that spin, needs to get that car righted and going again if we're going to stay green.
Hopefully the car will be able to refire here soon. I'm sure they're working with him to try and get that going. They're giving it a bit of time here before they throw a yellow to make sure that car can take off so they don't prematurely slow everything down, especially with the good battles that we've got going at this stage. Chambers still stuck at about 8/10, which was that way before. Looks like Ian Porter setting his personal best on the previous lap. And there is the full course yellow. Hutter unable to get it refired. Now the good news is you can see they've got a wall right there, so this should be a pretty quick cleanup.
Condenses the field, though. I think Roland Crines will be happy to see this. He's maybe not gotten back around Dempsey. We'll see. It'll help Carolyn Conda, though, Rafa, that's for sure. Now she's got a couple of cars out of class that are fighting for a class lead to get through.
Yep.
But she'll at least be able to see the cars in her class again.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for her to try to make a move here and see if she can catch Lonnie. Obviously, they were pretty far ahead with all the battles that she had to deal with and the traffic that she's working with. The top three had really gone away from her, so this gives her a decent amount of time to try to make a move and see if she can come into the picture.
We've talked a lot about Ian and about Carolyn, but we would be remiss if we didn't bring up Paige as well. Paige Morales, it's her first year of racing at this level. Tell us about how you identified her and what kind of a future she has.
Yeah, so we were working in building a community in Houston. She was one of the people that early on came and sort of latched as far as interest in wanting to race, being a young person a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we put her in a car, just gave her opportunity to come out and do a track day with us. And she was quick off the bat and had a desire to develop into a race car driver. So we've sort of taken her under our wing and seeing how far we can take her. I think ultimately she wants to be at the front of the grid with these guys, and she's showing a lot of promise being the first time racing in a proper race car. She's been on a road car all along, in a Cayman GT4 at least, so the car maybe feels or looks somewhat similar. But this is her first time actually ever being in a race car for this long period of time, and to be able to come and mix it up here and make some moves and show decent pace. I think she's showing a lot of promise.
I know you had your shootout back last fall. That's where you identified Carolyn. Is there a plan to do something more like that at the end of the season this year to help identify some more promising talent?
Yeah, so the shootout, it kind of came together pretty quickly. I just had this idea that, we should be able to put something together with the forces that we had, with the many hands that we have in the team. And within a 3-4 week period, we put together this TV series idea that, or filming that we could do where we could actually bring 9 women from around the world and tell their stories as well and then find a proper driver out of it. And so we did film it, we did capture the moments, and we have a TV series that's actually coming out of it. And so it's something that we want to be able to expand to being able to do every year. And, we can do it in the States, we can do it in other countries as well. So the plan is for this year, at the end of the year, beginning of next year, to run another shootout in similar form to be able to find another driver that can find a future in racing next year.
On the subject of the TV programs that you've been working on, and there's several of them, how can people follow you guys so that they know where to look, where to watch when they go live?
Yeah, so we'll be posting a lot of it on social media. So rafaracing.club on Instagram is kind of our most active page. That's actually also our website. That website's going under a whole new revamped development. That website is about 3 years old, 2.5 years old at the time. It was the concept of the business was much smaller than what it is now, and so it doesn't really quite depict everything that we're up to. So we have a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and we'll be sharing it on our socials and on our website pretty soon.
Outstanding. Exciting stuff for sure. Does it look like the lights are off on the safety car?
It appears to me from what we've been getting on these pictures. And yeah, it's pulling away now. So it's given control over to Ian Porter, should dash into the pit lane. And now Ian has had his lead over Chloe Chambers erased. What happens from here as he fires off of the final corner and is on it immediately? We got cars trying to find the inside behind them. I believe that is Conda in the thick of the battle once again. She knows she's got to hustle by there to try and get involved with those within her class. Those are the two fighting for the lead in the Masters category, with Clark and Pelichewski going side by side in the corner. Dempsey also chops off Roland Crines for a podium position. Somehow they make it out the other side.
Looked like Clark went wide on the exit. That opened the door for Pelichewski to go back through. Conda looking up the inside as Clark goes wide again. Conda clears the first one. She's got some more traffic to deal with ahead. In the meantime, Clark just dropped another spot. I believe that's to Dempsey there. So Dempsey up to second here in the second race of the weekend.
Well, that mistake from Clark might have been a blessing in disguise, because that's one less car that Carolyn has to try and overtake, but she's already lost a fair bit of space up to those top three. It looks like Ian is responding to this pressure pretty well, because he's keeping Chloe at a few car lengths behind him, at least for the time being. Did Clark lose another one?
I wonder if there's something amiss there, because he is off the pace. He's dropped a couple of positions. Now seems to be back in his rhythm a little bit, but boy, that was a costly half a lap for Michael Clark. The good news is Michael's thinking championship here, and he has a pretty hefty points lead coming into this weekend, and he will know that just scoring points, getting solid top fives, that should be more than enough to clinch a title. We have a spin, though, it looks like, at the exit of 8.
Couldn't see which car that was. I think it was the number 3 of Woody Witchard. He gets going once again, and car carries on as now we head down through into the Kettle Bottoms. And indeed, yes, Michael Clark with his hefty lead. Let's hope that that car is at least able to finish this race and not lose too many positions in the process. Down into Canada Corner. And Lonnie Unser also once again losing touch with those top 2, Porter and Chambers, with the pace over the rest of the field.
They've been the class of the field in the sunlight here today, and I do wonder if the changing weather conditions have helped to separate those two a little bit. Lonnie had that great run yesterday, finishing up on the podium. Really strong performance from her, but at the moment it's all Porter out in front, Chambers giving chase. Just a couple of laps to go. I think it'll be 2 laps and then the white flag, if I'm doing my math correctly here, with under 4 minutes left, doing laps just over 2 minutes and it being a +1 lap situation.
I think you're right. And Dempsey, Crines, and Johnson are nose to tail out there to try and fight for P2 in the Masters. Pelichowski using this opportunity to run away. Great exit off of turn 1 by Rowland. That's going to force a defense, and I almost thought there was maybe contact. In fact, yes, it looks like they're rubbing fenders there. Coming through turn 3, Dempsey and Crines getting the elbows out.
Dempsey able to hang on to the position. Crines has to settle back in behind and might be vulnerable to Jim Johnson here. And don't sleep on Michael Clark, who's now recovered. He's back on the pace after dropping a few spots on the restart. Now, how aggressive does he want to be, knowing he's got to be thinking about these points and about that championship?
Certainly, he wants to try and pick up those high percentage moves to wrap this one up. Behind him, he still has Dan Sabile, who has been there to try and maybe make him nervous if he makes an ill-fated move, so he can't do anything silly at this stage, that is for sure. They'll head through the hurry downs into turn 8. Once again, top cars are spreading out, but my goodness, it has gotten crazy here in the Masters. Someone going a little bit far off of turn 8.
Yeah, I think that might have been Dempsey there with Crines taking a look, but we'll try and get confirmation of that. The thing to keep in mind, though, is this in the Masters class is happening well behind William Pelichowski, who has scampered off and left this fight in his dust. Great drive from Bill Pelichowski as a car drops a wheel again. We had somebody off track, and again they're able to gather it back up. I think that was Jim Johnson.
It was indeed. That had to have been a scary moment. 4 wheels off and still gets away with it twice in one race. We've now seen that out of Canada Corner. I think that was maybe one more car managing to sneak by and him trying to get his speed back going. Should get the 2 to go signal this time by. The battle keeps raging. He wants that spot right back.
But it's going to be broken off. Full course yellow. Not sure what it's for at the moment. Looks like there is somebody off track at the exit of the kink.
That's Rizzo.
Okay. And that breaks off the battle and unfortunately, in all likelihood, brings this race to its conclusion. Unlikely. Well, it depends on how quickly this car can get towed away. Maybe there's a chance for a 1-lap shootout. But as it stands, it's Porter, Chambers, Unser on the podium in the Pro-Am class. Pelichowski, Dempsey, Crines, at least at last check, was the podium in the Masters class. And what a battle it was.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at some of our security cameras we got pointed all around the track, and unfortunately all I'm seeing is a whole lot of dust, so we don't know what exactly has happened. Really hoping that everything's okay, because usually you do not have small accidents, although as we've seen, some drivers can get lucky and get away without any damage sometimes through there, but it's not common. So really hope that everyone is fine in this situation. I do see them sending out a flatbed, so that seems to imply that it was not a small one.
Well, usually that's the case. Unfortunately, Rafa, you know the perils of the kink from earlier in the weekend.
I did, yeah. You know, I dropped the tire just like Jim did there, and unfortunately, I got sent to the inside immediately and didn't have a chance to to recover. I tried to save it a couple of times and help the car. So I think it was great to see Jim save it, and it seems like that there might be another car off. And I actually just saw Paige pull in, and I know that she had been battling with him. So I don't know, maybe they had some contact, or if she got a flat tire or something. I'm not sure, but she's out of the car here in pit lane.
Yeah, good spot.
Well, we'll try and keep tabs on that, see if we can get an update on what's going on there. We'll get the white flag next time by. So this race, I'm pretty certain, is locked in. I know we had floated the idea that maybe it could get restarted, but usually by this point they do need to signal whether or not the lights are going to be turning off on the safety car. This hopefully should give us a view. Yeah, okay, so it looks very similar to what you just described, Rafa. It's on the right side of the track, so yeah, I'm gonna say that it was pretty similar to what you experienced, where the car just spun it off the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually I managed to save it against the against the inside wall, but then it spun back to the outside wall. So I actually ended up on the opposite side, and it hit it pretty hard where it was too much damage on the tub, on the frame.
Had you been to Road America before this weekend?
This was the first time racing it or being in a race car. I did a couple of track days a couple of years ago. One of them was in the rain. It was pretty heavy rain, so we went around kind of just walking around almost. And the previous time was my first time ever coming, was on the road car when I'd been driving for 4 months. So it was my very first green, much lower pace, a faster car, but much lower pace. I'd say a faster car just by horsepower, but
sure.
Higher horsepower car. It was a McLaren in that instance, but it was a road car, and I didn't really know a whole lot about driving yet, so I was much slower than I am now. And this is my first time actually ever going at pace, and I got bit by the kink.
We've been talking up this track all weekend long. You have raced at some of the great tracks around the world this year, Spa and Hockenheim and Paul Ricard. Where does Road America stack up?
It's definitely up there. I think, from a risk standpoint, is obviously probably one of the highest, if not the highest, that I've done. Some of the other ones are iconic and are at great locations, like you said, or they've had some incredible racing in the F1 world or other races. They're pretty iconic as well. But this one has a special place in the places that we visit. Obviously, the grounds are beautiful, the surroundings are incredible, and the racing here is pretty risky. That's one of the things that at Paul Ricard and some of these other tracks, you can afford to make mistakes, and you have hundreds of miles of runoff, and you can spin off almost in every corner and not hit anything. And here is not very forgiving. Obviously, there's not a lot of runoff, with the grass in most places. So it certainly is an iconic place, and it's pretty awesome to be part of it.
Certainly seems to have lured many a driver to try and tame it here, and unfortunately a few have not succeeded, at least this weekend. But looking towards the future and the remainder of the season, we head off to Sonoma for the next one, and we'll have Circuit of the Americas for the final round. How is the team looking heading into the final events?
Yeah, everybody's, I think, is pretty excited. I think we came without knowing exactly where we were, how we would pair against the competition, and how the whole partnership with JDX would work out. Obviously, we knew from the reputation that Cameron on the team, that Tony on our team knew Jeremy and knew JDX, and we expected professionalism and a high level of competency. And obviously, they're one of the best to do it. So we haven't had any issues with the team. And coming in, we didn't know how fast Ian was going to be against the field. We knew that that he was quick just on our own test days, but we didn't know how quickly he was going to pick up the racing craft itself. And having Caro coming in, and obviously Paige, and including myself, didn't really know how well we would do. And I think that we were pretty happy with the development of the season and how quickly the drivers got up to speed and learning the new car. All of us, this is a brand new car to all of us. So coming in and learning new tracks. None of us have been to any of these tracks outside of COTA, that we had done quite a bit. And I think that the results there also showed. I was P6 in that qualifying, right? It's the quickest I've been. It's just because I knew the track so much better than any other track. So for me, being the first time racing at VIR, first time racing at Watkins Glen, I've never been to Watkins Glen. And so coming here and actually racing, it's going to be a pretty good experience. And I think everybody feels pretty good about the accomplishments of this season.
Oh, I can't thank you enough for coming and talking to us today and taking some time to talk about the team and your experiences. And we definitely wish you the best of luck in the coming races and seasons.
Sure, appreciate it, and happy to be part of it.
Oh, good luck as well this afternoon. I'm glad that you do get the chance to race, at least in the endurance race.
I got to get behind the wheel on the quali practice and kind of picked up where I left off. So hopefully this afternoon I'll be a little bit more comfortable and confident and get to push a little bit more. But yeah, excited to get behind the wheel.
Well, we're excited to watch it as well. We love that format and super excited for the 6 hour at your home track at
that's
Circuit of the
be
Americas.
Awesome. Yeah, we're really looking forward to that one.
All right. Well, Rafa Martinez, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on track here later on this afternoon. But Joe, looks like another win coming the way of Ian Porter. What a debut season it's been. And then for Bill Pelichewski, it's his second win of the season. Didn't see him on track at Watkins Glen at the podium yesterday, and now we'll stand on top of the box this afternoon. You're about to go talk to him, I think, here in a few minutes.
Indeed, and it's not like he's lacking in the podiums. I mean, he was on it, and even in the first weekend at Sebring as well, and then has had a string of them since then. Missed out on Watkins Glen, but has come back without missing a beat, it seems. And I'm sure he'll be proud of that accomplishment in the end. But yeah, Ian Porter can't talk enough about the impressive speed for a driver who is literally in his first ever season of professional racing. So other than track days and things of that nature, club racing, he has come in with a splash and set a very high bar for himself. They'll round that final corner, and while it won't be at speed this time, it'll still complete our last race of the weekend for the Cayman Series here in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama. And Ian Porter in the number 86 will go back-to-back in the Pro-Am Series. Meanwhile, Bill Pelichewski claims his second win of the season in the Masters.
Outstanding result for the two of them. Chambers back up on the podium. Another podium for Lonnie Unser. That's a double podium weekend for her. First of those that she's had. And Pelichewski, Patrick Dempsey to second, and Roland Krines. Now, there are a couple of incidents that are under review that will need to be adjudicated post-race. I don't think any of the podium positions are in doubt. Michael Clark, though, interestingly enough, is one of those. There was an incident with the 19. I think we talked about that at the time. That is Krines, so that is a podium position in Masters.
Oh.
So that will have to be dealt with after the race by the stewards, and we'll leave them to it, of course, to do that. But one other thing I wanted to clean up on is I noticed that our winner in Masters yesterday, Alan Scalzo, ended up pulling off early, and I'm not sure what the cause of that problem was, but he finishes well down the order, and that's unfortunate because he's had a really good weekend up until this point with the win and a couple of poles.
Yeah, I will say that the 19 and 17 was early in the race because I remember seeing that message pretty early on as we were calling it, but was not our focus at the time with all the action that was happening out on track. But as always, unofficial results until confirmed by race control.
Well, Joe, I think we'll dispatch you down to Victory Circle and let you have a word with our race winners and celebrate with the three in each class that will be up on the podium. So for now, we will take a quick timeout, and we'll be back with podium festivities for the final Cayman Sprint race of the weekend for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America.